I want to talk to you. It's Claire Berry here. Sorry, like I barely brushed my hair or anything today. Just chilling out in my little my bear cave here. And excuse me. I just want to talk a little bit about Weston A. Price himself and what he was actually doing. We're talking about, way back in the 30s, 1930s is when he started his research. So he traveled around the globe for over 10 years, it says, okay? And so he literally did go around the world. I mean, he went to villages in Switzerland, Gaelic communities in the Outer Hebrides, indigenous peoples of North and South America, Malaysian and Polynesian, South Sea Islanders, African tribes, Australian Aborigines, New Zealand, Maoris. Wherever he went, he was looking at their physiques, at their teeth, and he was also looking at their diets, supposedly everything that they ate. Now, one thing I just want to make a note of is that he did not appear to be looking at infants. So anything that they're talking about with infants, drinking raw milk and all this crazy, crazy advice that the Weston A. Price people are giving, and people sadly are taking it. Just they're not even looking because there's no links here, and you can't find anything out there on Weston A. Price except for millions and millions of articles, blogs, and pages of people quoting them. Now that's not just because there's a million people out there quoting them doesn't mean anything. And I just want to, I guess, to try to stay on topic here. They talk about, how they found that they were eating all these more minerals and all these fat soluble vitamins, right? And that they're getting them from, shellfish, blah, 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 blah. So therefore they're just very sure that even though, they're not using any real standards for science, even though this is completely outdated and has been pretty well misproven a million times, Weston A. Price Foundation wants you to just throw away, pretend those piles and piles of evidence don't even have anything to do with reality, and just listen to this doctor this dentist, not even a doctor, from the 1930s, and how he went around the world. And I can tell you that short list of places that I listed is not a complete list, and I don't know exactly how his mode of travel was, but in the 1930s, I can imagine that getting to some of these places was a challenge in itself, right? So if he's spending only 10 years going to at least 10 different places, that means maybe a year, in each place or whatever. I mean, this is going to be a relatively, it's still selective sample, because I doubt he was able to spend a whole year with each tribe or each, group. And then, there's been people bringing up points like, well, a lot of times if they have people with, disorders, birth disorders, or if they're sick, they're not going to be right there with the rest of the, with the rest of the community. So how do you know, that they were all healthier? And just because they looked healthy and were stronger because they're doing more labor, and just because they weren't eating the refined carbs and the sugar, doesn't necessarily mean that, the rest of their diet was healthier. And it obviously, causation is not correlation. Just because they were eating more fat doesn't mean that that's what caused them to be healthy. And any really good critical thinker knows that already. So I'm really surprised when I see educated people looking at this and accepting it as the truth, because I talk about the links over and over again, but just for this argument right here, like I said, I'm just talking about, this study that he did, and he's looking at their teeth, and like I said, yeah, it's well documented by now that, this sugar that comes with the standard American diet is what is causing these dental problems. And so I just don't see how people these days, with all the information that we have, new studies coming out, there's new, phytonutrient stuff that's being discovered all the time. And we're still listening to 1930s and 40s dentists who didn't even use the scientific method correctly. And it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. So listen to something, that's real. Listen to something that is a good study that can be reproduced, and something that's a little bit more current, because there's just been so many come on, it's 2014 now. Geez, 2014, people, and you're still listening to scientific studies from the 1930s. A little bit outdated, don't you think?